Welcome everyone to our webinar from Plan to Payoff, Huron Plaza Apartments Energy Efficiency Upgrade Journey. We're super excited to share their story today. Next slide, please. Just a couple quick logistics before we begin. Please send any questions through the Q&A button down at the bottom of the screen. We're going to have a chance to answer them at the end of the presentation. Attendee audio is not enabled, but you will get a chance to ask your questions at the end of the presentation. We'll also be sharing a copy of the presentation with all registrants, and a link to the webinar will be shared along with a copy of the presentation. Right, next slide. All right, here's everyone you'll be hearing from today. My name is Lydia Fletcher. I'm the Outreach and Enrollment Manager for the Multifamily Energy Savings Program, specifically for PG&E territory. I'll be our moderator/presenter today. Next, we'll have John Burdick, who is an energy advisor for the program and actually helped manage the energy incentives and upgrades for Huron Plaza Apartments. And then last but not least, we have Carmen Flores, who is the multifamily whole building operations manager and is our pro on any in-unit program upgrades. All right, next slide. Thanks. All right, today we'll be starting with an overview of the program to sort of set the stage for our webinar. We'll be following by an overview of how Huron Plaza Apartments use the program to upgrade their property. And then we'll talk about the future of the program and how you can get involved. All right, next slide. What is the Multifamily Energy Savings Program? Our program is an energy efficiency incentive program. We're sponsored by the California Public Utilities Commission, and we are a ratepayer funded program. The ESA being Energy Savings Assistance, Multifamily Energy Savings Program also combines common area and in-unit upgrades for a whole building upgrade experience. We launched in mid-2023, and our mission is to support residents and property owners, helping them save energy and money. Slide. I'm going to do a quick high-level overview of the program's eligibility requirements. So I'm going to fly through it. If there's more questions, though, we'll happy to cover that. First and foremost, we are for existing properties, so no new construction, and generally the equipment must be at least 5 years old to qualify for retrofit. But generally, if the property is 5 to 10 years old, we recommend having like a conversation with our technical team to make sure that there's eligible incentives and upgrades for the property. The property needs to receive electric or natural gas service from one of the 4 utilities listed below: PG&E, SDG&E, SCE, or SoCalGas, though you can note there that CCA customers are eligible. The property needs to have 5 or more units, and each unit is sharing a wall, floor, or ceiling, so essentially the units are touching in some capacity. And then the incentive coverage is going to vary for deed or non-deed restricted properties, specifically for common area measures. Deed restricted properties just being that there's a regulatory agreement or some sort of binding agreement keeping the property affordable. And then non-deed restricted is typically more market rate, and we see a lot of naturally occurring affordable housing properties qualifying for our program. So again, the incentive coverage only varies by property type for common area measures. All eligible in-unit measures are offered at 100% cost coverage, regardless of deed status. And then finally, for the affordability requirements, since we are affordable serving program, the income thresholds are established at 250% of the federal poverty level, and it's based on household size. Right, next slide. All right, so our program has a comprehensive set of measures that are really meant to address all the major energy users at the property. So this includes making the building more comfortable with air sealing and insulation, saving money with more efficient water heating systems and water saving fixtures, as well as heating and cooling upgrades. We can also cover LED lighting both inside the building and around the property, as well as upgrades for fixtures. And then also energy efficient appliances throughout the property as well. Electrification measures are a more recent offering of our program. We've been able to support common area electrification upgrades since late last year, and more recently in unit electrification for master metered properties. And at the bottom, you can see you can list, you can get a full list of the eligible upgrades at our website. Next slide. All right, common area upgrades are done in any shared common areas, you guessed it. This is such as hallways, leasing offices, stairways, laundry rooms, just to name a few. Really anything outside of a resident's individual unit is considered common area. So it really encompasses any and all shared spaces and equipment that's found on the property. When our technical team performs their assessment, they listen to the owner's needs and priorities to help them work and develop a personalized scope of work for their property. If there are upgrades in common areas that a property owner wants to prioritize, our energy advisors can work with them to help meet these needs and priorities whenever possible. And then also our energy advisors are able to provide recommendations on eligible upgrades and incentive levels to help maximize the potential savings and really get the most out of the upgrades. We have a webinar that we completed earlier this year that really walks through that on-site assessment as well as the technical support our program can provide. So recommend that as another resource to learn a little bit more about that, and we can share that information out as well. Next slide, and I'll be passing it off to Carmen to give an overview of our in-unit upgrades.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Carmen Flores, and as Lydia Fletcher mentioned, that I oversee the operational piece of the in-unit component of the multifamily program. So for your in-unit upgrades, it is mainly focused on your tenants providing 100% free equipment and services. And this is to help your tenants lower their utility costs and improve the quality of life for some of your tenants. All work done through the program is covered within 1 year, has a 1-year warranty, and also offers reduced maintenance cost to the property owner. Each of your tenants would receive a free energy education that'll show them how they can review their PG&E bill and find out ways how they can save on their energy bill while keeping in mind the health, comfort, and safety for each of the resident. For in-unit upgrades, we will have an assigned trained and certified subcontractor go out to your unit, do an assessment of the unit to determine what upgrades are feasible to install. And, they will also offer program education and will also work with your on-site folks to notify your residents and coordinate all appointment scheduling efforts between on-site folks and residents to ensure a seamless process. Next slide. And I will hand this off back over to Lydia. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Carmen. With that understanding of our program and that overview, we're going to move on to see these incentives in action at Huron Plaza Apartments. All right, next slide. All right, I'm going to go over a quick overview of sort of just high-level property details to give you an understanding of the property. The property, Huron Plaza Apartments, located in Huron, California, 64 units spread across 16 buildings. It was built in 1983, and it's a deed-restricted property by deed-restricted by low-income housing tax credits. The property was awarded a nearly $500,000 incentive at 96% 96% project cost coverage, specifically for the common area upgrades. As a reminder, all the in-unit upgrades that are eligible are installed at no cost. Some of the goals identified by both energy advisor and the developer for Huron Plaza was to upgrade old inefficient equipment, save the tenants and developer money. And then also Huron Plaza did something that we don't always see with a lot of other projects where they used MFES as part of their larger planned property renovation. So really taking advantage of some incentive dollars for upgrades that they would have liked to do anyway, and really incorporating that into a full property renovation. So we'll see that a little in some other pictures. Here's the property before here in this slide. But just want to make that note because we'll see a lot of changes going on in the property. Okay, next slide. Before I jump though into anything more with the property, I want to give a little bit of background on the developers. AHDC and Forward Housing were our co-developers on Huron Plaza Apartments, and we're great partners to work with, along with their contractor Paragon Construction. Again, quick overview: AHDC, or Affordable Housing Development Corporation, they're a nonprofit. They have over 35 years creating high quality, affordable multifamily housing, focused on community building, environmental wellness, and economic success. And they have over 100 properties in their portfolio across 7 states. Forward Housing, they also invest, maintain, and improve affordable housing across the US, committed to the long-term stewardship of the property that they acquire. And they have over 600 properties in their portfolio across 49 states. So again, really great developers to work with. And also you can see their missions are very closely aligned with our program, and really providing, with the end goal of providing residents with the best living experience, and also helping save money and increase, quality of life on the property. All right, next slide. All right, awesome. Okay, so project timeline. Going to walk through this. This is sort of the full scope from very beginning, the enrollment process, all the way through in-unit work. So first off, the property was enrolled in September of 2024. So this is going through the sort of initial paperwork intake, making sure it meets the requirements. Just a couple weeks later, the property was audited. So someone went out on site, took a look around, and John will be able to comment on that a little when he goes through the individual incentive upgrades. The customer consultation was scheduled also just a few weeks later. This is to go over all the eligible incentives and upgrades. And then the project approval letter was completed at the end of 2024. And that's really just to lock in that the upgrades that are going to be done and really identify those incentives. Construction started at the beginning of 2025 and then was complete in May. There was project verification, which is on our team, just to make sure all the work was in and complete. And that was completed in October of 2025 with the property with the project approved for payment in November. And unit work started shortly after and was completed in March of this year. So this is a little longer of a typical project timeline of this scope. This is for a couple reasons. There was a learning curve because this was one of, I think, the first property actually to go through insulation and window upgrades. And then also property-wide measures, like some of the scope that was completed here, they just require more time in general as just longer project scope. And then I want to flag that this project timeline might look intimidating, but really results vary. It's so dependent on the property. And with every project implementation, the team gains experience and moves through these processes quicker. And then for in-unit, there's also a longer timeline than usual. There's a little bit more back and forth with communication. There's some NGAT testing going on and some other, as mentioned previously, there were some other renovations going on in the property, which again, just contributed to a longer project timeline. Next slide. All right, awesome. I'm going to pass it off to John to cover the common area incentives.
All right. Hi, everybody. How you doing? So yeah, I was actually the auditor on this job as well. So I was participated in this from the very beginning to the very end. This particular project, pretty large scope, as you saw, with close to $500,000 in incentives. Basically, we had a lot of lighting fixtures that qualified on the property, about 58 in total, most of which were security lighting and carport lighting. Unfortunately, there were already some lighting fixtures on site that were already LED, and those are not eligible with the program. Um, the main chunks of the incentives on this program were the property-wide installation and the window retrofit. Um, the installation, we were really excited about that one. We went from a roughly R14 average across the property to R49. A lot of energy savings there. The other huge chunk of this scope was the window retrofit. We were able to replace every window on the property. They were all single pane. That totaled to close to 300 windows replaced on that property. And again, that was the lion's share of the incentives. So almost looks like 400,000 plus. The other smaller upgrades on this property, we had a smart thermostat in the office, the leasing office. I have a note here that unfortunately the HVAC system for that office space did not qualify for the program. But it is one of those things that we would try to have replaced. We also were able to do pipe insulation on the laundry room water heater, and again, that particular water heater was eligible for a replacement, but the property ultimately chose not to because it was relatively, I think it was under like 7 years old, and so it's still pretty new. Let's see, the other measures that the property qualified for but were omitted were the occupancy sensors for lighting in the laundry room and in the leasing office. But yeah, it was a challenging project for me. Again, it was one of the first ones to go through all these property-wide measures, particularly the insulation and the windows. And it was also one of my first projects actually getting to that stage. So it was all fun. But that's about all I have. If we want to move on to in-unit.
All right, so for the in-unit measures that some of the residents were eligible to receive, again, also keeping in mind the health, comfort, and safety of the residents was door replacement, door weather stripping, caulking, interior wall repair. Other services included the installation of smart thermostats, which are covered with a 1-year warranty since it was installed through the program, and NGAT testing. So NGAT is the testing of all natural gas appliances. So any of the water heaters or any of the gas furnaces, they were tested to ensure that all the units were in working condition and that there was no any type of gas leak, whether it was a small one, um, ensuring again the safety of the residents. And in the event that there was a failed test, we worked with PG&E's gas service representatives to ensure that we were able to expedite AGSR to go out to the unit and ensure that they were able to correct the issue and resolving any gas leakage that may have been present in the home. All right, next slide.
Awesome. Thank you to both Carmen and John for going over full range of incentives. Now we kind of have a couple of before and after pictures to show the incentives in work. And again, as noted, the property really did a very full renovation. So I'll point out some of those changes that might not be reflective of like an average property or just a property going through the program for some upgrades. But first, we have lighting. As John flagged, there was property-wide lighting in carports, outside buildings, leasing offices, etc. Here we have some on the outside of the building being replaced with a fixture. Another great flag for the program is the replacement of fixtures as well for old fixtures. So not just the improvement of LED lighting, but also the fixture for visual and energy savings. Next slide. right? And as mentioned, building envelope, specifically windows, was a really big part of this project. So we'll have a couple pictures there, but here you can see buildings, the windows before single pane and then being replaced in the after with more efficient windows. There's also, I want to point out here is where you can kind of see some of the other great renovations that was done that were done at Huron Plaza. You can see a roof, I think some painting, and then also some landscaping as well. So we like to flag the nice new windows, but also acknowledge part of the full renovation that was going on at the property. All right, next slide. And then here we have some windows in construction. So here you can see the window taken out of the building here and about to get replaced with those new windows. And then also on the right, you can see the sliding doors being replaced as well. So that was part of the scope. And again, just a really great full window replacement. And as John mentioned, this was the first property to go through this large window scope. So really exciting for both us and the property to be able to highlight this. Next slide. All right, also have some pictures before and after of attic insulation. It's attic insulation, so it's a little hard to really demonstrate the before and after as well here. But in the before, you can see that it's a little more of a patchy covering. I think John mentioned there were, or John did mention that when he was on site, he saw some of the floor through, so just not that even coverage, which we see in the after, and then really helping to insulate the property once the upgrade was complete. Next slide. And then also we have pipe insulation. So here we can see in the before picture, the pipes are exposed. And then in the after, they are covered. And it's a very seemingly small change, but it really adds up, especially with multiple equipment types throughout the property. So it really, yeah, I think it may not look like a lot, but it really adds up in terms of energy savings across the property. All right, next slide. All right, here we have the exterior, and here's like a really great overview of all the changes that the property did. We can take credit for the windows here, but as you can see, there was roofing, there was painting, there's some landscaping, and just some general upgrades to the property. So again, just highlighting how our program really works well within, a current renovation scope. As you're thinking, if anyone is thinking of renovating a property, it can fit in nicely and help cover some costs. And next slide. Again, a great sort of before and after of the exterior of the property. Again, windows and sliding glass doors are covered here, which you can see. And then again, the painting, roofing, just really giving a fresh look to the property as well. All right, next slide. All right, I'll go through some numbers. We're going to go over results by the estimated amount of annual energy savings. So we have this split by common area upgrades and in-unit upgrades. So for common area upgrades for gas, the estimated annual savings was 2,000 annual therms saved. And for electric, we have 42,000 annual kilowatt hours saved. For in-unit, for gas, we have estimated 3,714 annual therms saved. And then for electric, 28,300 kilowatt hours saved. And then that's, energy savings are great. And then putting it into sort of the annual estimated cost savings, which is a really, I think, the more impactful number. We have this added with both in-unit upgrades and common area upgrades for a total of 31,980 estimated annual cost savings. So really exciting to see that number, and great for the property and tenants as well. Next slide. All right, and we also got some great quotes from people involved in the project. So from Nia Stockridge at AHDC, we chose to participate in the MFES program to enhance long-term property performance while directly improving the quality of life for our residents. By investing in energy efficiency, we are reducing operating costs, increasing system reliability, and creating more comfortable, sustainable homes for the families we serve. And then from James Burris, who is at WIN, which is the property management company. We have, first off, the upgrades have definitely contributed to a reduction in maintenance work orders. This is especially significant considering that prior to the remodels, maintenance staff had to contend with multiple unit water extractions and ongoing wall or ceiling repairs due to roof leaks whenever it rained. So I think we did a great job of covering general energy savings, cost savings, tenant quality of life improvements, but also there's the on-site property staff that really gets to see a reduction in maintenance, and that can contribute to both time saved, cost saved, overall great for the property. Next slide. All right, with all that having gone through their journey, we're going to go into the future of the program, next steps, and how anyone can get involved. Next slide. All right, for our program timeline, good news is that funding is still available. Our program, was originally scheduled to end in December 2026, but we do have a bridge year tentatively approved for the program, which means projects will need to be complete by December 2027. So we've added on an extra year. At this point, there is no limit to project enrollment or timeline. However, funds are first come, first served, so we encourage you to apply as soon as possible. Also, as you saw from the project timeline, it can, depending on the scope of the project, it can take a while. So the time sneaks up fast, and we encourage people to apply, taking that into account as well. All right, next slide. Awesome. Okay, I think we've hit our Q&A session. I don't know if there are any questions. I can go in and check in the chat.
We did get a couple of questions during the registration phase. I know one of them was, does the program support solar and storage?
Yeah, awesome question. Our program does not. We do energy efficiency upgrades, but really, I like to highlight that as a great start and great sort of first step before solar. However, there are a lot of solar programs out there as well, and we do partner with a single point of contact service, which can really help identify if you have other goals such as solar for the property. They can help identify programs. So energy advisors are really great at working through that and helping set everyone up for success there.
Awesome. Another one we did get was, what upfront costs should be expected and how does that incentive get applied to it?
Also a great question. I'll split it out by common area and in-unit. In-unit is a little more straightforward. It is all direct install, no cost for any eligible upgrades. Common area, it is a rebate based. So there is the sort of upfront cost of the work. After project verification is approved, then the check comes out and that applies to the incentive. There is some flexibility there. Contractors are also able to sort of cover the costs and then receive the incentives. So depending on how the developer is working with the contractor, that's a sort of breakdown we see pretty often. And then so in addition to sort of those out-of-pocket costs, and then with the rebate, there's also, as we mentioned before, different cost coverage levels based on if the property is deed restricted or non-deed restricted. That'll really be dependent on a lot of different factors, but ultimately the developer will always get be able to see the incentive they can anticipate. And then also, as one more note, is that we do offer phase payments as well. So if there is, especially for if there's a large upfront cost, we can phase the project to help basically cover, as one part of the project is done, it will get verified and the check can go out, and then the second phase of the project can begin, and the payment would cover that as well.
Awesome. We did get two questions in the Q&A. First one was more of a comment, but it's she said also the program helped cover permits and fees, which was great. Do you want to talk about that for a second? Maybe how we can cover those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have necessarily anything to cover. Also, nice to see you on here. Thanks for joining. Actually, John, I might pass this over to you for program covering permits and fees.
Sorry, I'm getting off mute. Yes, the program generally does cover ancillary costs like permits, a lot of like taxes, things like that, shipping costs. There's also an avenue to submit for additional funding for a lot of for the southern projects, for just like oddities that things that come up that are ancillary costs.
Awesome. Great to hear. We do have another question. It asks, does your team do the install, or as long as we're a part of the switches on, can we as the contractor do the upgrades?
Yeah, also a great question. So again, I'll split this by in-unit versus common area. As Carmen mentioned, the in-unit upgrades are performed by a qualified ESA in-unit subcontractor. So that work is covered by that qualified contractor network, and applies to anything in-unit. But for the generally larger scope and common area scope, that can be done by a contractor of the developer's choosing, whoever the owner wishes to work with. And as long as they're a qualified contractor, there is no other requirement there.
Very cool. We can wait just a second, see if we get any more questions. Otherwise, in the meantime, we do have all of our contact information if you think of something later, or you want to visit our website or talk to any of our team members. We have our contact information such as emails and phone numbers, and our website as well. If I see, oh, I did not mean to raise my hand. I think someone is raising their hand. If you don't mind just putting your question in the Q&A, that would be helpful.
And then while we're waiting for that Q&A that question to come in, I really want to do a big plug for the website. It's a great resource. We have both property owner and contractor resources available on it.
Yeah, website is a great tool. We did get that question, and they said regarding Windows, is this measure still an option?
I can take this. Yeah, Windows is still an option, but it's only for northern projects. So that's projects in the PG&E territories, and that would it has to be an existing single pane window to qualify.